Alright, everybody, we're back for another episode. A pretty long overdue one, but honestly, we have lives to attend with, and it's good to have ourselves back together for a special. Do you want to call it an anniversary if it's something that's kind of like a stab in the heart?
Yes and no. I think it might signify it like how it is right now, like the start of the movement. Yeah.
And said movement is nothing more than the Snyder Cut movement. Now, if you've been living under a rock, here's a too long didn't read version of it. Fans got to see Justice League in 2017, and it was a piece of dog shit. A major clash between visions, poor CGI that was worse than the previous films, and in spite of all the talk that Suicide Squad had with its director's cut being missing out there, especially all the reshoots that were there, I think Justice League gets even worse, considering the fact that with Suicide Squad, it's more of like a smaller film by comparison, although the impact that it had was massive in terms of the popularity it had. Whereas with Justice League, it was nothing more but just a major embarrassment towards the people that were interested in the movie, as well as those who were already fans of Man of Steel and Batman v Superman.
Yeah, you could say it was a complete insult, not only creatively but to the audience. Because at least some of us were following something that was just sheer stupid.
The thing that hurts most about the film was a lot of people didn't know much about it at the time. Like, people thought, oh, this would just be, it's the same vision he had. But those that were more awake of the overall shit show were much more hesitant to actually support the film. And although they were willing to give it a shot still, they were still right in describing the fact that the film that they saw was nothing like what we got. Last year we reviewed Zack Snyder's Justice League, and we praised that film a lot, so the fact that we wanted to talk about Josstice makes me want to prefer to actually discuss why we made the movement with a lot of other people that were involved with this. And it wasn't just like a 40, 30 person movement. It was a shit ton of people that contributed.
I always believe that it's measurable, the amount of people who at least intervened in the movement or the phenomenon.
Yes. Like, it's just the fact that there's so many individuals out there, from around the world even, that were willing to fight for the Snyder Cut was astonishing. And
yeah,
it's kind of amusing looking at all the people that say, oh, I was the first one to do it. No, I was the first one. Because you get a sense that the people that said, I feel like this is not the version of the movie that Zack was making, were, like, on the money, pretty much. Like, they knew what they were watching, and they knew how to describe it right.
Yeah, it wouldn't even make sense. All people involved actually contributed to that. So, the first time I saw it, I processed it like I just thought, well, maybe he was pushed much to make it the kind of childlike. But then, just couldn't believe it at all. And started, and then we started to get some clues about it, and people started to make it more of like a unique voice that presented it is actually there and we should fight for it. So yeah.
Indeed. The thing that sort of like surprised fans the most was the fact that days after the film came out, we got leaked footage depicting scenes that were not present in the film. From what turned out to be Cyborg's journey as he discovers more about what his father tried to tell him, as well as a more complete version of the battle between Steppenwolf and the Amazons.
Yeah.
depicting his true design instead of the one we got in the theatrical release of Justice. Well,
Holy shit!
yeah,
I completely forgot about that design.
yeah, like in the theatrical release with Justice, like it's just so bizarre seeing that they would actually redesign an entire character. Never has there been a thing like that, apart from likely Jabba the Hutt adding him in the movie Star Wars: A New Hope.
Mm-hmm.
But at least with that, you get a sense that George Lucas, whether or not you agree with his decision, kind of wanted to make his vision more complete that he couldn't do at the time, because he was new to the sort of movie thing. It doesn't look great for 1997, but I understand the intent.
I mean, it was his creative decision, not in this case with Zack.
Yeah, and furthermore, when it comes to the way things were set up with, like, everything else that was put in the film, we were supposed to have seen more scenes involving the characters battling that was not present in the movie, as well as depicting more events with certain characters like Volko, played by the ever-popular Willem Dafoe. We got to see him in Aquaman, yeah, but we were supposed to have seen him in Justice League. Josstice removed him.
The Justice League removed a lot of people of certain colors at times.
Oh yeah, like it's so funny too because like they would bring this up much later, but the fact is that it's just amusing to see how people would assume that like nobody outside of Warner Brothers would be aware of this sort of thing, but people caught up with it real quickly, and the push towards making the Snyder Cut was immediate. Sure, there were a few fan edits that were made to try and make the film much better, which I do think now feel kind of archaic after the more definitive experience with Zack Snyder's Justice League. Maybe calling it definitive would be a little unusual because I'd say it's the more only experience, like the true version, the only one that should exist. No disrespect to the other fan edits, but now that we have Zack Snyder's Justice League, their fan edits are kind of irrelevant by this point.
To be honest, yeah. Who was the guy who, or what was the nickname of the guy who uploaded or like, uploaded those videos, like the one of Cyborg, Send the Hero? What was it?
Like a hero's journey or Cyborg's journey. Chris Dawson. Like,
oh,
yeah, like I hate being rude to him because he's a genuinely good person and his edits are pretty good, but I kind of feel that by this point, apart from history showcasing, you know, the way people try to make their version of the film, like I feel like they serve their purpose now that we get ourselves Zack Snyder's Justice League. But until then, we had, apart from fan edits, people making petitions. We've seen people like doing hashtags. A lot of like verifieds in the past. We see kids before Elon Musk got involved with Twitter and gave every person the option to pay $8 for verification, which is kind of like Discord Nitro. So let's be real here. Yeah, like before then, like verifieds were meant to be more like the type of people that would either be brand accounts or real people that vary in terms of behavior. Most of the people that were verifieds ridiculized the Snyder Cut movement, saying that it was like meaningless, it was stupid, and they pretty much thought it would just be like going nowhere.
Yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen now, because with this amount of verifieds, are you trying to make everyone a verified so there is information, or are you trying to make verified so there is more disinformation?
I think the only type of disinformation we need to worry about is making sure that none of us, and I mean absolutely none of us, like get to see any of the leaked no images of the WB execs.
No.
Yeah, I mean I'm not gonna get demonetized anyhow, but I just don't want to get like butt fucked by YouTube.
Yeah.
So, moving on, like, after the hashtag stuff, the fan base knew they had to keep going when it comes to pushing forward for the release of the Snyder Cut. One thing that I did not like was that people were saying, well, not everybody, but some people were saying, hey, let's support the theatrical release so we can get ourselves more of the Snyder Cut or the director's version. That's not going to work. It's like,
they make a point.
Like, okay, I see what they're going for. They think they can do stuff like with supporting BVS, and then we get ourselves the Ultimate Edition. However, a month before the movie was released in theaters, we got talk that an Ultimate Edition was coming out. Unfortunately, though, we were pretty much unaware of the fact that by that they meant that the more complete experience was actually saved for much later, whereas the incomplete version was put in theaters. Oh my god.
We were hoaxed!
Yeah. Like, if it was Ultimate Edition that we saw in theaters, and an even more complete version, like a 105% complete version of the movie that was put in the DVD releases and whatnot, sure, that'd be understandable. But the fact that we were getting ourselves a Batman v Superman home video release that was the more complete version, and we didn't know about that, probably should have been a warning sign for people, especially those that were saying that we should support Josstice so that we can get ourselves the Ultimate Edition of Justice League. That would actually mean that if we supported that film, we'd actually want this bastardized MCU wannabe.
It was so sketchy, everything. But I don't want to talk about the past. I want to talk especially about the movement. I think the achievement of it is unquestionable, and it has no precedent because we had the platform to do it, and therefore we made it I don't know if it's still true, but the biggest hashtag phenomenon for a movie ever.
I'd say that. Especially for, the release of a film. I mean, we've had something similar with, Superman 2. But with Superman 2, it was more so just sending letters. There was no, major, massive platform on Twitter or Facebook or YouTube as there would be today. It was very different. Plus, that was years after the release of Superman 2. I think people were sort of aware, but it wasn't as something that was frequently well known. Whereas the Snyder Cut was something that people knew about from hashtags or memes or so on and so forth. It was prominent, especially when it came to what the fan base did that got people's attention.
Yeah.
For example, the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention, I think, was a very smart move. It was a pretty good way to not just help others so they wouldn't be in the same sort of unfortunate event that we experienced, or that it was something that was logical to do, so no one could go into the same sort of fate that Adam Snyder did back in 2017. And it kind of showcased the fact that, the importance of mental health.
Yeah, about that. I think the suicide prevention movement also allowed, and I don't like to talk about technicalities because I believe in the purity of what Zack went through, and also who Zack is. I believe in how of an angel he is, but it also allowed for a lot of people maybe to give it a whole of it more transparency, because there was so many kind of fake news around the Snyder Cut and around Zack Snyder, and I think it also allowed him to be more himself in media.
Yeah, that also works too. as like a good like discussion point. And I also think that with this sort of movement, that it kind of like touched up on something that I don't think many people bring up today. Not even schools, because like for some reason,
I
because
know.
like with all the stress that's going on in the real world, I kind of feel like everyone needs someone to talk with, especially when it comes to like anything that they're dealing with personally. Because you look at some people and they might not do well financially, or maybe they've like had a pretty terrible experience arguing with a friend, or they broke up with somebody else, and it's just like something that we need to bring up. And like, if no celebrity that claims to be a good person would do it, leave it to the Snyder fan base to actually give attention towards mental health.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, if we go inevitably to it, there's barely any spaces for personal research of how we feel mentally. It is just, and I know that these foundations won't be the cure of it all, but it lets you start going with thinking and start questioning why the system is so empty of it, and also like give yourself chance.
Exactly. Like, especially since any person can help their own friends or family, like exit this sort of terrible experience they're in by sticking with them and helping them out no matter what. You know that one meme where one person just gives their buddy a high five while they're sinking, while another image shows them actually grabbing their hand and pulling them out from the water or sand?
Yeah, yeah.
The former description would pretty much be any normal individual, but the latter actually kind of fits the Snyder fan base pretty well when it comes to how they're bringing awareness of it. It's something that I don't think has been done beforehand. Like, I've seen people donate stuff, and yes, donations have been a thing, but it's the fact that the AFSP was one of the main driving factors towards the Snyder Cut movement is something that I don't think has been done since, or even before, honestly. In addition to that, what I also liked was seeing them actually go and spread the word with billboards and even going to a soccer game. The billboard stuff we've seen every once in a while with franchises made by fans, or like fan bases running sort of like a movement. You know, like the way we've seen people actually make that sort of thing with the MCU, like bring back Tony Stark, which it's like, okay, that thing was actually kind of goofy as hell, but I kind of cringed at that, not gonna lie, just because, like, what's that going to benefit? Tony Stark is a
No,
fictional character.
they act like crybabies sometimes. I don't know who was a part of that decision to just start asking for Tony Stark to be back, but that was just a very childlike action.
Exactly. I mean, especially since like we've had 11 years of Tony Stark, pretty much. I mean, granted, he wasn't in 2009 because there were no MCU movies made in 2009, but he's been in an MCU movie at least once a year. So the way everyone just like whined about him not being in the MCU anymore was just fucking stupid. Especially since, like, regardless of your opinion on Avengers Endgame, at least he had a conclusion.
No, yeah, his conclusion is very respectable.
Yeah, he willingly sacrificed himself to save everyone. And even if like Endgame as a whole is a mess, it's the fact that he was actually willing to let go of everything and willingly die What that was that he actually made me respect him a bit, even if he was oversaturating the MCU with his own appearance constantly. Why the fan
As
base?
much,
Go on.
sorry. Oh, shall I go on?
Yeah,
I was just gonna say exactly the same. Like, as much as everything was so messy up to that point, you can still see a line where there is a character arc for Tony, and that's awesome. And you should let him get that ending of the character arc. I don't know why they have so much trouble knowing how story works.
yeah. Like we can definitely ask like why they would actually like why that one verified clown would think, oh, what's the point of the Snyder Cut billboard? Even though like it's just meant to show that people want to fight for that movie because they're fighting for the creative vision to be fully released as well as to do justice, no pun intended, for Zack. Whereas
Mhm.
the Iron Man thing is a lot more ridiculous because just the way everyone was unappreciative. I mean, like, even Robert Downey Jr. doesn't want to be Iron Man for so long.
Yeah,
Like, I'm pretty sure they're going to
it's
bring him back.
no. Well, do you think they'll bring him back?
Like, before we go into, like, a meltdown over the MCU's current state, let's just move forward. The sort of, like, billboard thing is pretty common. We even got that in New York City. And I think every once in a while you might see it next to the Daredevil billboard. Or do they share the same ones?
Time I got some type of news around the release of the Snyder Cut, it was just filled with so much hype. I mean, I still get a bit of chills up now. And the banners attached to the airplanes and how people call to the big heads in Warner and the like all the letters that were sent, the what you just mentioned in New York, eh, the new shit that came out in any type of portal, it was just filled with so much adrenaline.
Yeah, and like it shows that these are real people from different backgrounds actually contributing to this sort of thing. In contrast to the average like moron on Twitter that pretty much saying that it's just a bunch of angry white people. No, like Snyder movements filled with so many different backgrounds. It's like how the fuck would you ignore that? Verifieds.
No, that's that actually should be out of debate at all because the Snyder Cut movement portrays such a diversity that it shouldn't even be mentioned because it is not important. I think what it is important it is the collectiveness of the
Exactly.
movement of how it worked together.
Especially when it comes to the fact that like as we mentioned before, a lot of movements were planned. Like it was so special seeing them actually like go to the studios and even wearing the costumes as well. That was actually pretty adorable. Would you actually call it adorable if
Yeah,
somebody wore like a Batfleck suit, even though it's kind of weird to say that Batfleck looks adorable? I don't know. This is a Nitro Rat moment.
I mean, why not?
But either way, it's just an amazing sight. I mean, granted, there was some weird attempt at it, like when David Pina and some other person were trying to put up Snyder Cut banners or whatnot nearby, like D23, which is so bizarre. Like, I understand you're trying to spread the word elsewhere, but you're doing it at the place where a lot of like Disney consumers, I mean fanboys, are just going to hear about what other corporate products, I mean new movies and TV shows are going to be put out.
That was a weird call, but I'm still gonna support it if it was done with the best intentions.
Yeah, though it does kind of make me imagine what it would be like if Someone in a Mickey Mouse costume was just scratching his head, wondering why a Warner Brothers property was doing in Disney grounds.
Uh-huh.
What is this? Huh? I don't understand this sort of thing. I should probably buy it. Before he gets his ass handed.
No.
Before he gets his ass handed to him. But yeah, like.
Oh, exactly. Wait.
But like, yeah, like the banners, the billboards, the sort of like even the bus stops. That was actually pretty cool. And I kind of remember seeing like a poster of the Snyder Cut movement at my local comic shop. Well, not really local because it's in downtown. It's like up north from where I live. Like by bus, it'd take me an hour, maybe by car, half an hour. But that was actually pretty neat. And it kind of showcases the fact that you could probably do a bit of like a treasure hunt looking for these images anywhere, wherever they're at.
If there is like a Wikipedia destined to the release the Snyder Cut movement, there should be, and it should be detailed and with a lot of data about it. I would love that.
Well, there was like a Wikipedia page that was made, but or at least like a version of it, but it kind of went like back and forth between someone that worked at Screen Runt and a more dedicated fan that was actually more aware of what was going on behind the scenes with the movement. Like going back and forth on budget details, sort of like understanding like who actually began movements and whatnot. It was inconsistent, and it kind of gave us a showcase of how messy this got when you're collaborating with someone else that's not as well versed with the Snyder Cut movement compared to the more experienced people.
Mm-hmm.
I think the person that was named was Stephen whatever Colbert. He's not the comedian that tries to be funny. He's like I said before, the Screen Run guy, and he looks more like the kind of guy that would just try to sound like he's using big words to make himself smarter on Twitter, and expect to get a lot of clout.
A funny guy. He's a funny guy trying to be serious. On the other side, it's a guy trying to be funny, failing up.
Yeah, what's with Stephen Colbert's being stupid people? But apart from that, yeah, like it just felt like for the most part we get movements. We didn't really feel like there was much progression going on, apart from the fact that we get more details. I will admit, a small part of me kind of felt like confused as to why people be disappointed about the lack of an Adam character. Now that we found out that Ryan Choi was in the movie, but they cut him out, then I realized, wait a minute, they deliberately cut out a hero from the movie that could possibly be important for another film. I mean, obviously Ryan Choi didn't suit up as the Atom, but it's possible to see him don the suit at some point. Who knows? And then
It is.
There's like this stuff about like the removal of Martian Manhunter and the Green Lanterns, which that's a whole other mess. And it kind of showcases the fact that, as we'll get to in a moment, it feels like Warner Brothers is trying to make themselves look like the bigger person, but they fail at it horribly. We'll get to that in a bit. So, yeah. If, like, with 2018, we felt like we were trying to push for the movement. It didn't really feel like it was going anywhere with, like, the lack of an announcement at SDCC. Same thing for SDCC 2019, which, you look at the sort of presentation for it, it was, like, embarrassingly small compared to the massiveness of the MCU. Like, sure, we joke about the MCU being a corporate factory that churns out garbage, but at least they know how to please their audience. By which I mean consumers.
They do. They know how to please consumers. Yeah.
It felt like we were very close with 2019 when it came to an announcement where we were pretty much like waiting to see what we'd get on 2017 or like 2019 of November 17. People were pushing for it, and we get ourselves nothing
Yes.
apart from like a small tease from Junkie XL, even though that music wasn't his per se.
Yeah, I remember that.
And the fact that like Ben Affleck and Gal Gadot were actually tweeting for the Snyder Cut movement was actually just surprising. Granted, no other actors were present apart from Ray Fisher on Twitter. Jason Momoa, I don't think, uses Twitter that much. Henry Cavill's on Instagram. Ezra Miller does not have social media.
No, he had at one time, not anymore.
Oh well. But it was just like
We'll see.
the fact that Batman and Wonder Woman's actors were pretty much like saying hashtag release the Snyder Cut was epic. Especially from Batman, because you'd think that like with all this like melt stuff that was going on about him not wanting to be Batman anymore, you'd think he pretty much wanted nothing to do with it. But no, he actually wants to see this thing, like the stuff he was working on, like be seen by everybody. Because the Batman that we saw in the theatrical stuff was nothing like what we received before. Whereas, obviously with the Snyder Cut, that's definitely Batfleck.
Yeah.
A new...
Emotionally, I can say it was Batfleck.
Yeah. Like, it's a new way of seeing Batfleck. Not by a corporate study, but more so by a character change of sorts. Seeing him go from a cynical individual that's like nearly shunned everything away from him to being more open about willing to get help or support others or make a team and stop this inevitable threat to make up for it after feeling Superman in a way.
And now, well, let's just go to the point, which is the day of the actual announcement.
Yeah.
That we got to see Zack commenting on the movie Man of Steel and then Henry appear. I just want to say I loved seeing that live. And now with the fresh news about Henry coming back, all that just started having another significance.
Well, that's like initially exciting, but then you remember that he's not a fan of the sort of direction Superman was in.
No, he was not.
Like,
or at least not complete.
Like, he prefers a more optimistic and more open-minded Superman, even though I do think that the approach we were going for would at least be more interesting to be done in movies, considering just how we were like excited to see him come back to life, wear the black suit, and maybe even potentially like deal with Darkseid. That would be a lot more interesting than whatever plan DC has currently. Because they always say, oh, we have a plan, we have a plan, we have a plan. But it just feels like there's no plan whatsoever. It's just on autopilot. That being said, though, at least with the announcement, which I gotta say, it was kind of amusing that Zack would actually say, oh, you know, I can't wait to see a movie like this after watching BVS. And then he cuts off, and then we go to March. No, wait. And then we go to May 2020. During the first bit of the pandemic that was going on, people tried to like accommodate themselves in a new life before even crazier shit happened. Zack broke the internet with the announcement. He says, oh, I got something special to show you. He puts up Zack Snyder's Justice League, like wallpaper. It's in black and white. It's got HBO Max on the logo, but that was actually awesome to see.
is the definition of breaking the internet whenever he wants.
It's like I was like watching the stream. I was like in the middle of grocery shopping. Um,
Oh,
so the fact that he actually said, "Oh, like I gotta show you something a little special," with all the fans that were there. Like I was about to like scream out loud, being like, "Fuck yeah, this is awesome!" But like I couldn't because it was an Aldi pretty much. Like if I were to go around yelling something like that, I'd probably be like, "Sir, please calm down." But still, holy shit, that was actually just like the best thing about the pandemic, honestly. That announcement was something I always wanted to hear from Zack himself. That yes, the Snyder Cut exists, which he has confirmed in the past, but it's coming soon, and it's making me and so many other people around the world happy for all the effort that was put towards pushing the Warner Brothers people to release the cut itself.
it was. Oh, I was gonna say something, but I'm just gonna stay with the fact that it was the best thing that happened to me indoors, alone, after months being fuged in my own room. The best thing that happened to me in that whole year.
Nothing can top it off when it comes to like cape shit, because with the Snyder Cut, it felt like the next step towards making a comic book movie. Everything else is just so been there and done that for the most part. It's just like it's just crazy that it actually happened. I'm like it made me so happy to experience as a whole, and oh god, it's just ah.
Think everything that accumulated, good and bad, just releasing there with the fight of the releasement, but it just all released there, like all the dissatisfactions, all the satisfactions, all the efforts, all the frustrations. It was just there in just that tiny moment of an announcement. It just all freed.
Yep,
And I think that's pretty unbelievable.
it is. Although there was a journey of waiting for the movie to come out, because apart from trying to survive the pandemic and all the crazy shit that was going on, we had to make sure that nothing would go crazy with Warner Brothers. Like we were honestly like hoping that Warner Media or AT&T wouldn't fuck things over. Like even with fandom, like I know that the trailer was leaked at one point, which was bullshit. That someone would actually do something like that, considering how things have been, especially as some sort of attempt at trying to overthrow the attention put towards it. Because let's be real here, that fandom thing, like the Snyder Cut, is one of the biggest things out there that feels attention. People can try and like oversell Wonder Woman 84 or the Batman all they want. And it's kind of funny how we didn't even talk about James Gunn's Suicide Squad. Like we forgot about it.
And everything that has not been around what Zack did just failed
Yeah,
so dramatically.
exactly. But it was just exciting to actually delve into like the announcement in the Snyder Cuts trailer. The Hallelujah music was beautiful. It,
Oh,
the thing that made it special was kind of like the Joker trailer. It wasn't your typical like epic music trailer, nor was it anything that was like MCU style, where it's just a joke that's cracked every once in a while when there's silence. It felt motivating. it felt like he was saying, even though we might be down on our luck and in sort of like shittiest places, you still have the chance to get up there and prove your worth. And even though it wasn't like a movie we'd see in theaters, which I still wish we can do at some point, it was something that felt massive. I mean, I haven't really been excited for like streaming platforms because I've just been so out of like touch with Disney Plus and Netflix and Hulu. Most of the stuff I've seen before already, and I could just watch on YouTube if I can. Or alternatively, there's a lot of genres I don't care about. Like, am I really going to get Disney Plus just because I want to watch like Star Wars or Clone Wars? I mean, I got it for free at one point from ordering something on Hasbro Pulse just for shits and giggles, but I'm not going to watch the entire library when I just prefer watching certain shows. With this, like, it felt like it was worth the movie ticket price because I didn't want to miss out on HBO Max's release for it. Although I will say that I have to give Warner Brothers, or I love to give Warner Brothers a smack in the face for actually trying to leak the movie deliberately.
Dude, how can it be that I forgot that? Yeah, with the Tom and Jerry shit.
Yeah, it's like nobody cares about John and Terry. Like, okay, I like John, I like Tom and Jerry. Like, they're classic, but I'm not gonna stick around with them for long. Like, every once in a while, I could just watch a show and be like, oh yeah, that was funny, but I'm not gonna be like super obsessed with it. So
No, but I mean, it has nothing to do with Tom and Jerry. How can you be such an irresponsible corporation to, even if you did that accidentally, which you did not, but even if you did, how can you be so irresponsible? And so, like, I can't believe it. It's just, it has so many holes, all that security process, if you want to put it like that. But you're just even immature by doing it, and immature, and also not taking into account that you're giving that content to kids, because in the accident you're actually making kids watch that. You are also like shitting on too many people who are actually working for your corporation, like, so, and all your consumers, you're shitting on that too. It was so unbelievable.
yeah, and it's not even like a normal accident. It's like, oh shit, I put the wrong thing in. We'll fix it real quick. No, that was deliberate. Like, they wanted to try and like overthrow the hype for it just because it was something Zach was making that they were envious with. Heaven forbid Zach was getting all the positive reactions. So, like, I hope like Warner Brothers is going to go to hell for that sort of thing, without a shadow of a doubt. And even more so because, despite the fact that we were happy to get Zack Snyder's Justice League, it was a great experience. It made me happy to watch it. I will say, though, that the sort of problem that came up was how, in spite of the positive reactions and in spite of all the sort of attention that was put towards the movie, the fuckers behind the series, or rather the company, like, the fuckers behind Warner Media, especially Ann Sarnoff, more like Ann Fuck Off, or Suck Off. Hey, Ann Suck Off! Ann Suck Off these nuts!
No!
Oh my god. The way she was like, oh, this is like a cul-de-sac sort of thing. It's like, fuck off. Or rather, suck off these nuts. It's just like, you were willing to say that there is no further plan, despite the fact that you have the perfect opportunity to make a new sequel. You have Darkseid's Visions of Darkseid approaching Metropolis, the Nightmare Story arc, and in between them, you also have stuff like Martian Manhunter introducing himself to Bruce Wayne, and who can forget, we'll use the old-fashioned ways, Ready the Armada. I think you said it in the other way around, but like, you get what I mean.
Yeah.
that is the perfect way to set up a sequel. And it's not like the MCU, where it's a case of them just being like, oh, like, you better be on the lookout for all these like little itty bitty secrets. Like, look for fucking like what's the face, like, look for like this cat themed vibrator. That's going to be a sneak peek for Spider-Man 4 featuring Black Cat. In the post-credit scene, in the post-credit scene would just be like, would just be Black Cat just like grabbing it and being like, oh, what would this be used for? And then she just goes after Spider-Man.
Quality content.
Like, that is been overdone so badly that I'd much prefer when you just get to the point and be like, okay, look out, people, because we're getting ourselves a crazy-ass event coming up next. We'll see if our heroes will either be able to repel said attack, or if they're going to lose to it. Like, because like this is a direct story. Like there's like that would have been a direct sequel, not like some sort of like post-credit scene thing. No, like it's like a Batman v Superman would immediately go straight towards Zack Snyder's Justice League, or how even beforehand. Like, Batman v Superman was an immediate, like, response to Man of Steel.
Yeah, it is.
I like that sort of thing. Just the fact that we get to see, you know, like, the ending of one movie and it plays out like it's like an action movie. It's like, it's a blockbuster thing, but it's still really cool. And then we get to see, like, a response to it, and it's much more cynical, much more, resentful with Bruce Wayne's character. Because, like, he's seen the victims around it, and it kind of showcases his hatred towards Superman. And of course, like with Zack Snyder's Justice League, we get to see, you know, Superman's sacrifice as what kicks off the events of the movie in a way. Even though we already got something like that with the end of BVS, where Bruce is pretty much like, we have to look for the others. Like, I'd like to see more of that, honestly.
Mm-hmm. There's an actual start out and a finish with its consequences. That's why the movies feel like one, but at the same time they feel like they are responding to the previous one. And that is something that not everyone can do. You have a lot of examples in Marvel, they can do that at times.
Yeah, and I much prefer the sort of approach that we were getting that I like to see more often. And if you ask me, like, I just want to imagine what the Justice League 2 would have been like. Like, how would they follow up? I mean, we probably would have seen the end of the battle with Steppenwolf's head being decapitated, and we'd probably see, like, more of Darkseid's past as a way to, like, have us learn more about him right away, because he was kind of like, sort of like a looming threat that would be passing by. He's going to be coming very soon, and he's now here. And it's just something that is much more refreshing. They get to the point, instead of just like being like with the MCU where it's like, oh, here's Thanos again, here's Thanos once again, and then here he is now, guys. No, like, he was actually part of the story. I mean, what Marvel did was fine enough, I mean, for its time, but I like the fact that DC went differently with this sort of thing. They can do a cinematic universe, but it doesn't have to be the same way as the MCU, because this is more of like an epic story. The MCU is more like an overlong TV show made as movies.
I'm still a believer that Snyder's Justice League 2 can happen. And I don't care if I'm the only one, but I'm still a believer. Hello.
Well, there are two ways it could happen. Like, we've been expecting an announcement at some point. With stuff like how we were waiting for more announcements from Warner Brothers. Like, there's not much they can plan out with when it comes to Warner Media, because it was being bought up by Discovery, which happened a lot pretty unexpectedly. Like AT&T was pretty much like, okay, you guys don't want to like be nice to Zack Snyder. Okay, we're done with you. Then Discovery came in, and we were kind of like wondering what would happen next. And but even then, like, you can tell there's a massive like drought in hype going from Zack Snyder's Justice League to the Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Like it felt like everyone was like very curious about one film, whereas with the other, nobody gave a fuck about it. And people would be like, "Oh, like COVID and whatnot." Like even then, people are starting to go into movies more often. I mean, hell, Venom Let There Be Carnage wasn't that great, but it got more attention still, nonetheless.
Yeah. The shit about those movies still baffles me. I can't believe it.
We kept getting like more curiosity and waiting for more updates. And of late, it felt like we probably would have gotten something like that. But every once in a while, like, you kind of like see the same old trick where people are like, "Oh my god, guys, something crazy is going to happen with this sort of update. Oh boy, this is going to be crazy. Y'all aren't going to believe this." And it's just something trivial. It's like you see some sort of like soy jug be like, "Oh my god, guys, Henry Cavill is going to make a major announcement with DC," but they overhype it up, or they don't know how to make hype for shit. It's just a trick to get people interested in what's going to happen. And over the fact that The Rock got booed by a lot of fans who are waiting for Henry Cavill's Superman to pop up.
Hmm.
And it's so funny too because weapon.
I was just gonna say, what if we look into the future? What do you think would happen? Like, for a hypothetical Man of Steel 2, who do you see them getting as a director?
Well, we already got a Man of Steel 2 in the form of Batman v Superman, but as like another Superman movie's concerned, I don't know what to expect, honestly. And I probably expect it to be more of like a sort of an approach where it's more of a case of this thing being like, "Oh, yeah, this is another Superman movie. It'll be okay at best. It'll probably get fans interested if they want more Superman." Although it just feels like it's stupid where it's like now they only give a fuck about him, whereas back then they're like, "Oh my god, like I don't like his writing in the character." Unless there was somebody that like had a change of heart. I don't trust a lot of people that suddenly go for the clout. They probably only care about him just because like Zack Snyder isn't directly involved this time.
I think that if Zack comes back, he will need to adapt a bit to what the universe ended up being, and that's fine. But he should be considered.
I'm pretty sure he'd probably do it, but if he were to, I'd much prefer if he got like control over what he can do, because we've seen how Superman was used in other films, and it just felt more like just a joke. I want my Superman stuff to have substance, not something that can only get people excited just from like a leaked video or screen cap that's on Instagram and people make like, "Oh my god, this is so crazy, guys, it's so worth it." But no. Can you imagine if people in 2005 made like took like a bunch of like screen caps of Darth Vader Sooner Revenge of the Sith and act like that's the only like hype thing about it? And like, granted, Revenge of the Sith is a film with a lot more substance than what DC puts out nowadays. I don't want something that could just be getting a lot of attention from social media for a few days or whatever. People try to hype up one of the scenes from Superman and Lois, but apart from that, apart from people talking about like whatever the hell Superman is doing in like the series, trying to be different from Henry Cavill, nobody cares about that show.
Yeah, I think I can go through life in my city, and if I ask anyone if they watch it, the answer is going to be always negative.
Exactly. The only person I've seen. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Go on.
Yeah, just one tiny thing. If we do you think that like the scenario of a Justice 2 could happen, the same narrative that in just tiny bit different and readapt.
It depends on what Zack can do because, like, I know for a fact that he's the kind of guy that doesn't like compromising, even in the face of Armageddon.
Yeah.
So.
No, but I mean, it would mean that you would have to have in mind consistency, but that doesn't mean that you need to sacrifice anything from what you can do and what you can provide and give and create. So in that zone, they should just leave him like how he works.
Yeah. I mean, he did like make a compromise with the scene. Originally, we were supposed to have gotten a Green Lantern at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And then it was changed into Martian Manhunter because Warner Brothers be like, oh, no, you can't use Green Lantern. We're gonna make something special Green Lantern ourselves. No, they haven't. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, bullshit. You know what? You know what they're trying to do with that series. They already cut down the budget again. That's gonna be a disaster.
Oh, great. Budget cuts. My favorite thing with this stupid-ass company.
Yeah.
No, imagine them like having $50 and they just make like this cheap-ass show that looks like it's filmed on like a Vine short. Just be like major embarrassment.
The only person who could make something with $50 and a suit would be Ryan Reynolds with Deadpool. Otherwise, I don't think anything could come up with that.
Like, Ryan Reynolds is a talented man because he actually gives a shit about what he's doing, whereas Warner Brothers is just clock in, clock out.
Yeah. So just to wrap it up, what do you think this movement of the release of the Snyder Cut means? Like, what does it symbolize?
It symbolizes that no matter what people say, and no matter how much arguing there'd be in between fans, because I've seen a lot of people act like they're trying to get a clout from meeting Zack, and acting like they're above all others. Like, imagine the fact that there was a lot of persistence that went on. Even if they didn't get the announcement before May 20, they still kept moving forward. And that's what I like to see. Because you look at all these other like movements, like release the Raimi cut, release the Schumacher cut, renew Daredevil Season 3. They're all well-intentioned. But the problem is that they were only made after the announcement of the Snyder Cut was a thing.
Yes.
They missed the point of why people fought for it, as well as how. It wasn't just fighting for a product. It was more so giving justice to the people that were involved, as well as to showcase a true story that was meant to be shown before corporate decided, nah, we are going to like make it a better version. Also, Joss, please schedule a 5 o'clock meeting for a hand job with Jeff Johns.
I was about to say you deserve like a round of applause, but you immediately went to Joss Whedon and Jeff Johns, and I just couldn't keep on with the clapping.
Oh my god, it's just the fact that like those two fuckers are responsible for this mess. That we got.
They are.
Like, I don't care if one of them was involved with the Avengers movies. I don't care if another person was involved with writing DC comics, making Green Lantern stories. They're both scumbags. Hell, I wouldn't even touch them with a 59.5-foot pole. It's just like those are the type of people responsible for the mess Warner Brothers is in. And it's just kind of poetic how we, like, in spite of all the negativity that the Verifieds put out with Zack, the people that have worked with him say he's a nice guy and is a great person to like work with. I know I'd have a good time working with him. Whereas, in spite of all the support that the verifieds and all the ugly ass people try to give the Joss, he was pretty much like gone downhill for his sort of like harassment towards workers.
I'm just gonna finish it up and say that everything that this movement transmitted from its values ended up concentrated, canalized, condensed in a movie that it is beautiful, and all the journey deserved its hard work, and that even now that we are here making this podcast after a long time, it also has a journey on it, and it has a beauty on it. But I think we should all stick to our values and learn what they made possible.
And I also want to thank everyone that helped push for the movement, like especially those that contributed towards the big accounts that weren't just trying to go for the clout, but were also pushing towards the movement, especially the likes of Fiona, as well as Vinaldo, and other people that ran the RT Snyder Cut account, for example, and directly worked with Zach, not trying to go for like the Zoom calls and act like they're above Cloud9, but more so just making themselves feel like they are true contributors because of what they've done. And they're not doing this for themselves, but rather for people like us and so many other fans around the world. So I don't know if like you or watching this, Vinaldo or Fiona, all I have to say is thank you for everything with the Snyder Cut. And wherever it takes us with not just getting the Snyderverse restored or getting the Air Cut released, we hope that we can get those at some point. Especially if Warner Brothers is trying to get money. They know they're going to have to put that like emergency button ASAP.
Thank you, everyone.
Till next time, have a good night.
Goodbye.